Hey there, and welcome to my studio. I'm Mary Gilkerson, and I am so happy to have you here today for another episode of A Painter's Life. Today, I'm going to be talking about number 6 in my series on creativity hacks. And number 6 is all around sharing your gifts. It may be the creativity hack that I am most passionate about. Maybe because it's one that I've had to wrestle with myself at times. And you may be going, what in the world are you talking about? What I'm talking about is the idea of sharing your work with the world in some form in order for it to have an impact. So I hear all sorts of reasons from artists about why they don't share their work. They're um, usually revolving around false belief systems and fears, all kind of fears. Fear of failure, that nobody's going to show up, nobody's going to like it, nobody will buy it, nobody will want to see it, they won't comment on it. So fear of looking ridiculous. What if I post it and nobody says anything about it? Fear that they're too young, nobody will take them seriously, or fear that they're too old and there's not enough time left. I'm going to give you some tough love here today. And this goes for all of y'all out there, whether you're an artist or not, because we are all creative beings. And I mean you there in the back row. So I'm getting on my soapbox here and preaching. So this is for everybody, artist or not. We're all creative beings. And I mean every last one of us. We've all been given some sort of gift. I have never met a person yet who didn't have some sort of gift. And when you're given a gift, it comes with a responsibility. You owe it to the world to share that gift with the world. And if you're not sharing it, with the world out of some sort of limiting belief or fear, then you're not living up to that responsibility. And you have a responsibility to the world around you. A gift is a responsibility. You owe it to the world, whatever that gift is. Making babies laugh, painting paintings, riding bicycles. I don't know, whatever you feel like your gift is. You know what your gift is. Deep in your heart of hearts, everybody knows. If you feel the call to paint in particular, that's your creative gift. And that responsibility is to share your work with the world. You owe it to the world. It's why you are here. Whatever our gift is, that's our purpose. Our purpose is not to go out there and make $1 million. Our purpose is not to feed everyone in the world. It would be great if we could do that, but the reality is our ability to change the world happens on a much smaller level. It happens on the day-to-day interactions that we have. I had this conversation with an old friend I grew up with earlier this week, and he was extremely pessimistic to the point of putting down other people who were going to make an effort to change things because he didn't believe one person could make an impact. But you absolutely can. You just have to step out there and get past yourself, get out of your own way, and deliver the gift that you were given and that you're meant to be sharing. Who are you to hide your gift away from the world? So if you've been thinking that nobody wants to look at your work, nobody will like your work, there's no market for your work, I'm here to tell you there is. We have a global marketplace at this point in time. Things are radically different than they were 25, 30 years ago. We can reach out to an audience, maybe even collectors around the globe on the other side of the planet. People couldn't do that as easily 30 years ago. There is no excuse for you hiding your gifts away. Absolutely none. So if one of the most common false beliefs that I hear about artists selling their work is that they're afraid that nobody is going to want it, nobody's going to show up and buy it, and that people will complain about the price. And here's the one that really gets people in their gut, because they've absorbed this from the stories that our culture tells, that if you sell your work, you're selling out. And you can't be a success unless you're selling your work. Do you hear how those two things conflict with each other? The reality is, you don't have to sell your work to have an impact. Every time somebody sees your work and it makes them think, see, or be in the world in a different place, you've had an impact. You just have to decide how that impact is going to be framed for you. I can't tell you what that impact needs to be, what that success path is, but you have to make a decision and you have to step into it, because it is your path and it's already there. It's calling to you. You've got to take the walk. Do I sound like I'm preaching? Because I really am. This is something that I see happen with my students. I've saw it happen when I was teaching undergraduates at the college who would get overwhelmed by the amount of roadblocks they perceived were in front of them to being successful as an artist. Well, then redefine what success is. Think of it outside the box and think of it in a different way. I'm going to tell a story that has to do with somebody else, totally different artist, a younger artist I know, who sold a painting to a man who just fell in love with it. And it wasn't even one she technically had up for sale on her website, but he said it reminded him, and if you are this person, you know who I'm talking about. This story really hit home for me. He said that the painting reminded him of his niece, and she had passed away. The artist, several months later, it may even have been a year, got a note from the man's wife. And the man had passed away shortly after getting the painting, but he had had the pleasure of owning the painting, even if for a brief time, and it made him very happy. And his wife was thanking the artist for the pure pleasure that the man got from the painting during the brief time that he had it, and for the meaning that that painting now had for her and the rest of her family. It became an heirloom. So what would it have been like if she had not stepped out and sold the painting? It wasn't even one that she had for sale at the time. That person would have been denied the pleasure of owning the painting. His wife would have been denied the pleasure and the memories associated with it of having something he loved after he was gone. You do not know the impact you have on the world. You may never get the note like she did, but I guarantee you it's happening if you're stepping out there to follow the path that you're meant to be on. Your work, whatever that work is a gift. And you need to get out of your own way so you can share it with the rest of the world. Don't hide it away. Because when you do that, you wither inside just a little bit every single time. You're like a plant that's not getting water. You need to water yourself and you need to water the world. So think about, who do you have to be? How do you have to live in order to give that gift? Who do you have to be to become the artist who shares the work with the world? And by art and artist there, I'm talking really broadly. If you are a grill meister and love to grill, that's an art form. Cooking is an art form. What is your art, and who and what do you have to be to share it with the world? Leave your comments below, because I would love to hear how y'all are thinking about stepping up and stepping out. And think about how this affects creativity. Because I guarantee you, when you hear the impact that your art has on other people, it spurs you on to make more. This may have been 4 years ago, something like that. It was a solo show that I had in an adjacent city to where I was living at the time. And I can still remember the look on the man's face as he sat looking at a series of small paintings that I had done of the landscape in that same basic area. And what really struck him was that it transported him back to the landscape of his childhood and the memories of time spent with his friends. But I could see the joy on his face. Did he buy a painting? No. But that memory has stuck with me for the last 4 or 5 years. That's the transformation I want to have happen for my work. I want it to spur people on and to bring that kind of joy. Now, you can have a totally different desired impact from that. That's fine. But for goodness sakes, own up to it and step into it. So let me see if anybody else is diving into that. Yes, Joan says, when I get better, that's my little voice. There is no there, Joan. Done is better than perfect. So if you're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect subject to be the perfect artist, newsflash, it's not going to happen. There is no perfect there. There's just where we are right now. And done is way better than perfect. We use the desire for it to be better as a way to keep ourselves safe and to not have to face that fear of putting ourselves out there and falling flat on our faces. Go on and share it. You don't have to put it up for sale, but share it on your personal profile because there's somebody out there who needs to see it. Don't wait for it to be better. Start doing it now. Leslie says, just even talking about art to others who may not paint is a good thing to pass on. It encourages others when you share. That is absolutely true. When you start talking about your work, about what lights you up, you light other people up. We all can have an impact in the world. So it can spur on other people on to go explore ways that they can become creative. One of my favorite ways, that may surprise some people that this is one of my favorite ways. One of my favorite ways that people have to explore their creativity right now are the paint and sips. I love those things. So what happens when a group of friends goes to one of those paint and sip events for the evening, and they sip wine and they talk and they paint without worrying about whether it's perfect or not? I can't tell you how many students I've gotten just because of that kind of an event. I need to go out there and give them some sort of bounty, because what they do is they unlock people's creativity. And it may not look like it's the most creative event. Everybody painting the same composition, lots of wine being consumed and lots of yak. But the truth is, that's exactly what's happening there. People get bitten by the bug, and the locked away creative part of themselves comes out and it wants more. So don't be afraid to put it out there, and don't be afraid to share what you're doing with other people and send them on to learn more. It's really important to do that. Yeah, I'm glad that resonates, Leslie, because it's something I feel really strongly about. The flip side to that, and this is the one that bites me in my tushy periodically, is the idea of playing small. It's getting out of your comfort zone. Actually, it goes back to what you were talking about, Joan, that there's this fear of stepping out of our comfort zone to play a little bit larger. And playing a little bit larger really is just another way of saying sharing a little bit more. So when you share a little bit more, you're pretty vulnerable. You're putting yourself out there. And our logical mind is designed to keep us safe. And it goes, oh, whoa, wait a minute. No. Danger. Will Robinson, don't go there. And it tries to pull us back into our safe comfort zone. But the truth is, if you stay in your comfort zone all your life, you're never going to grow. Because the only way we grow is by stepping out of your comfort zone, stepping out of our comfort zones. And what I found is if I step out, even just a little toe, my big toe at first, it gets easier the more and more and more I do it. Doesn't mean it's ever going to get always easy, but it gets a whole heck of a lot more. The flip side to that is also realizing failure is not a bad thing. So what if you post a painting and nobody comments on it? So what if you post a painting and somebody actually makes a really nasty remark? If you're sharing often enough, you're going to get the trolls and the haters. It's just a fact of life. There's this magic button called delete and block. You can get rid of them. And you can delete and block the negative people in your life as well. It's this wonderful thing that we can all do. Shut that stuff away. But instead, I would rather just not worry about them. Don't let them stop you. Go full forward into what you want to do. You're not going to succeed until you fail 10 times. When I was a kid learning how to ride, we were taught in a pretty traditional European way. I learned to ride when we were living in England. And we were put on the back of the horse, no reins, and the teacher had the lunge line. So the horse was on a long line that the instructor had a hold of. And we were supposed to learn to let go and to trust and to just keep going. And one of the things that she told us, and I think there's a great deal of truth in it. I'm not sure riding instructors can say this now because of liability, but we were taught that you're not going to be a good rider until you fall off 10 times. And we were taught how to fall. So if you learn how to fail and fail forward, it's not so scary. We had to practice how to fall. And it became so ingrained that even as an adult, I still, if I needed to, could fall off the horse in the right way in a ball rolling so that I wouldn't get hurt or had a less risk of getting hurt. And I praise that instructor, Miss Bradford, many, many times over because she taught me a huge lesson in life that you need to learn how to fail so failure's not so scary. Because if you don't fail at all, you're not getting out of your comfort zone enough, you're not sharing enough, and you're not going to grow in your creative endeavors. So I don't want to preach at y'all too long, but I do want you to think about all the different ways that you can step out of your comfort zone. Shoot. I'm trying to get it to show me the rest of the comments, and it's not showing all of them to me. So if I'm missing a comment that you've made, sorry about that. It is doing its thing of, once again, I'm going to try opening this window and another window and hoping that I can turn the sound off. So bear with me for just a second and see if I can get hold of those other questions. Oh, it's not going to let me do it. Dang it. I hate it when Facebook does that. Let me see if I can refresh the window and get any of those. It has its own mind at times. It drives me crazy when it won't let me see questions or comments that people have made. Yeah, Leslie says you'll never go anywhere if you do not show what you do. We're too conditioned to fear failure. We really are. Our culture prizes success over failure, and it rewards success over failure. But the truth is, you're never going to be successful until you fail, until you give yourself permission to fail and step out of that comfort zone. One of my favorite entrepreneurs is the woman who developed Spanx, and I'm going to forget her name right now. She's got a great TED Talk on the power of failure and credits her father for empowering her and her siblings to not be afraid of failing. He would ask them each week at the dinner table about what they'd done to fail. After I heard that, when I was still teaching college students, I started doing that in my classes with my students. And I started asking them, what have you failed at this week? Because if you haven't failed at anything, you haven't stepped out of your comfort zone. You haven't risked anything at all. Now, that doesn't mean go jump off a building, but it does mean stretch just that little bit and think about who you need to be to become the person who would do those sorts of things. I want everybody to understand that you can decide how you're going to share your work with the world, that there's no single solution or success path that's right for everybody. There's no one size fits all anymore. Gatekeepers are gone. The whole world has dramatically changed with the advent of our access to online platforms. So if you have that online platform, you can decide what it is that you're going to do in sharing your work with the world. You get to decide how you define the success of that, and you get to create your own path to get there. So thank you for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you hopefully again next week. Bye-bye for now, everybody. Happy painting.